Hey everybody, welcome to Narrative Live on a very special day. Today's our first AMA, our first Ask Me Anything. And we've got an incredible guest who's agreed to be here today to answer any of your questions related to Jeffrey Epstein. And his name is Stephen Hoffenberg. You've met him on the last couple of shows of The Secret Life of Jeffrey Epstein, and he's here again tonight. Hey Stephen, how are you tonight?
Good, Sam. How are you today?
I am really excited. We have very, very smart viewers on Narrative because they've sent in some really interesting questions. We're going to get to 10 questions, we hope, just in a little bit from now, and I'm really looking forward to getting your answers. But we should give everyone a bit of an update on what's going on in the Virgin Islands related to the estate of Jeffrey Epstein. There are lots of people clamoring for the estate and its money for various reasons. Some people are the victims of his crimes, whether they're financial victims or rape victims. Others are the Attorney General of the Virgin Isles, the U.S. Virgin Isles.
Why pursue these sort of charges now?
Well, all I'll have to say is why not now?
So here's the latest. A court in the Virgin Isles has agreed to temporarily freeze the estate and its assets. At the same time, the Attorney General has made allegations against the estate executors, Indike and Khan, that they committed a series of crimes. Because of those crimes, the AG has asked for liens against the entire estate. Now, those liens will take precedence over the victim's claims. How's that going for her? Is she succeeding?
She filed charges against the estate and the two executors of the estate, Indike and Khan, for criminal activity and supported those allegations, which are very extensive and very detailed, with criminality activity liens to protect the government of the Virgin Islands down the road against other creditors of the estate.
As I understand it, the victims, at least the rape victims, are a little upset about this. They believe that what they have done there at the U.S. Virgin Isles is that they have put themselves ahead of any of the victims of the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein, particularly the rape crimes of Jeffrey Epstein, and that they may not get any restitution whatsoever if these cases against Indike and Khan, the current estate executors, if they succeed, they might not get anything, the rape victims. That doesn't sound to me like a solution for this big problem that they have.
The rape victims' lawyers must take a proactive role now with the Virgin Islands Attorney General in attempting to settle all of the litigations for the rape victims. The Attorney General of the Virgin Islands would talk to the rape victims' lawyers, and they are in some interaction now, and they have to come to a total number now, not 6 months from now, and not after a committee to resolve settlements is appointed.
They argue
this
that
has to take place now.
They argue that they already had a deal with Indike and Khan, that they had what looked like an arrangement that they were very happy with. And now what they are saying is, we're being forced to wait behind the line and renegotiate what is already a good deal that we were happy with the Attorney General of the U.S. Virgin Isles, who herself, they say, failed to prosecute Epstein for so many years, and he's only doing this because of the money. So there's a lot of accusations being thrown around here.
But Indike and Khan did not have authority from the Virgin Islands government to make any deals, and they had to get a court order. And they've been negligent in their filings in that court. Their accounting filing for the first quarter was in total disarray and has to be repeated substantially. The majority of their filing for the estate is wrong and negligent. So there is no deal. There can't be a deal if you have a state in a deficit. And the estate is in a deficit in their filings right now with that court, the probate court.
Look, I think everyone agrees that Indyk and Khan are the two people who should not be in charge of this estate, and certainly their activities with Jeffrey Epstein when he was alive and since he died are many criminal aspects involved in all of those. So they shouldn't be responsible for running this estate. But it does seem like that doesn't mean that the victims themselves should have to suffer because of that change in the executors of the estate. You know, they should their existing agreements should be honored, shouldn't they?
There is no existing agreement. There was an existing proposal. There was no approved agreement by any court anywhere in any location. And Indyk and Khan, the executors of the estate, should have listened to the Attorney General's request, which have been transparent as to what they want. They want a total number for all settlements now, not later on, now, so that they can try to reach a global settlement. And Indyk and Khan are not providing that response.
And neither are the lawyers, is what you're saying.
Well, no, I don't think the lawyers realize yet how serious this problem is going to be. I think the lawyers are doing what they would normally do, is go through due process. But that step of due process could wipe out their claims.
So a very serious message tonight to the lawyers is that they need to open a channel of communication, some sort of dialogue with the Virgin Isles Attorney General if they ever hope to see any money from the estate for the victims of this particular crime.
The emergency message to the lawyers for the victims: don't deal with Indyk and Khan. Go to the Attorney General of the Virgin Islands. Strike a deal that's acceptable with the Virgin Islands, who will sponsor the deal in front of the probate court, probably throw out Indyk and Khan from the estate and put in clean people, which the Attorney General said, we're not going to let Indyk and Khan administer anything to speak of, like a projected proposal for settlements. They got to get legitimate people in there. You got to throw out Indyk and Khan, who
Absolutely.
are criminals.
That everyone, I think, is okay with. It's just a question of whether the same kind of settlement can be reached for the victims. Let me ask you a question that's obviously in everyone's mind here: is why the Virgin Isles is proceeding with this American court case? Where is Bill Barr's involvement in all of this, and where is the SDNY? Why are they not involved?
They so far have not joined in the litigation taking place. That's their decision if they want to claim that this estate could be litigated in the Southern District of New York. And they haven't taken that step yet. And Bill Barr would have to decide civilly that he was going to take a restitution step for the victims and step into this case in the Virgin Islands.
But why have they given up their rights to prosecute here to a tiny island state with a dodgy justice system?
Well, they didn't give up any rights, number one. Number two, they're allowing due process to take place in the Virgin Islands effectively. And the due process in the Virgin Islands will help the estate substantially because the laws are more restrictive in the Virgin Islands than they are in the Southern District of New York. For instance, Ghislaine Maxwell's legal fees were stopped this week from any payment from the estate in the Southern District of New York. In addition...
Wait a second. Before you proceed there, you're saying that Ghislaine Maxwell's legal fees were being paid by the estate up until now?
Yes.
And
yes.
How does that happen? How does the estate pay Ghislaine's fees?
Just like Steptoe and Johnson's law firm representing Epstein in his criminal arrest, Epstein had the right to take on any liability he chose to and sign retainer agreements with any attorneys that he wanted to. And he activated all of these lawyers to do the cases for anybody linked to his charged criminality. So this was a continuation of when Epstein was alive prior to August 10th to what he put into place.
So Ghislaine Maxwell, who up until now you're saying has been protected by the state in terms of getting any sort of prosecution, she's no longer getting those bills paid.
The order this week from the probate court in the Virgin Islands was no legal fees will be paid outside of approved lawyers in the Virgin Islands, not in New York, not in Colorado, not in Florida. Nothing's going to be approved at the Virgin Islands courthouse. That came down recently.
This doesn't sound like good news for Ms. Maxwell. Could she be arrested for some of those criminal cases that Indyke and Khan have been subjected to?
Well, her spokesperson this week issued a press release saying that Ghislaine Maxwell does not care and that she's going to default in all the cases brought against her.
When you say she doesn't care, does that mean she doesn't believe that she's going to get prosecuted in any successful way? So she can ignore all the cases against her up to now.
Well, she's being civilly prosecuted this minute, so that's not the case. She faces civil prosecution ongoing, and she'll be facing a battery of civil prosecution, which can turn into criminal prosecution.
And
so she's wrong about that step. Very wrong.
So what's your message tonight to Ghislaine Maxwell?
I'm not here to guide Ghislaine Maxwell because she's a fugitive from justice. So I'm not going to give her a message. But the more she puts out there in press releases through her spokesperson, the more she compromises her courtroom appearances in the future.
Well, that certainly sounds like it. We should get on to all these other great questions that we have, but no doubt we'll talk some more as the case develops in the Virgin Isles. It does look like there's a lot of movement this week, and it seems like saner minds will prevail, hopefully, as this case continues. Support Narrative's independent journalism at patreon.com/narrative, and check out our podcast wherever you get your podcasts.